All right, welcome to Peeps Creek, the cafe where we serve you delightful, slightly intense, but definitely worthwhile conversations. A podcast focused on bringing people together by drinking, listening, and conversing. So grab your favorite drink and let's see what's on today's menu. All right, people, welcome to Peeps Creek, the cafe. We are here for another episode of the podcast. You know, here at the cafe, we always have a conversation centered around the drink. And today I am drinking on some kind of concoction that is vodka with some good old sugar-free mango passion. And today I have a special guest in.
Hi.
I am joined by Janika. Say hello, Janika.
Hello, everybody.
So, before we start with the topic, how has your week been?
It's been pretty busy, pretty hectic, but I made it through the week and I'm ready for the weekend. So what can I say? That makes it a good week, right? When you make it out, you make it through.
That is right. And this is your first time seeing my new abode.
It's been a while. I have been a guest of the podcast previously. Haven't been asked to participate in a while, but maybe we'll talk about that later. But I do like the new setup, the advanced equipment. I mean, you're growing, Deontay. Congratulations.
I'm growing. What's my name?
Sean.
Thank you. Jesus
So
Christ.
don't use my government
You over
name.
here telling
if I
the
can't use
Oh,
your
I did
government
say
name,
Janika.
Yes, you did, Deontay. So
My bad. Sean, people.
Sean and I'm Jay.
Do you remember when I first started and I was in my old basement? I had that long little ghetto table with the little ghetto mics all over the place.
It wasn't ghetto. It was a starter set.
It was a starter set. That is right.
You were an entrepreneur.
That's right. Every millionaire started somewhere.
Okay.
And a billionaire started somewhere.
So yes, you have advanced. You have evolved. We're
Thank you.
proud of you.
Appreciate that. And you were part of the book club.
The book club. Were or am.
Well, I mean, we haven't done anything.
What are we doing with that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we can just start a 2-person book club and see where it goes.
We can. I would like to pick that back up because it would force me to make time to read these stacks and stacks and stacks of books that I want to read and I just don't have time. So if I have something that makes me accountable, more accountable, it'll help me. So I have selfish reasons as well, but I think it's really beneficial, right? To do something that's just like what you're doing here, right? Exploring topics and ideas and concepts.
So, okay, on that topic, I just started this. You know Tamara Hall?
Yes.
She wrote her first fiction book and it's out, and I just started. So maybe we can use that as the kickoff, unless there's a book that you really want to read.
No, I like her. I'm happy to read that. I've heard actually Will Smith's book is good.
Not going to read it.
Okay. And is that because of the incident or just you have feelings
stopped-
previous to that you're not interested?
It's a stupid reason. I get it, but I stopped liking Will Smith after Black Vivian went upstairs on Fresh Prince and came back, and then we had a white Vivian.
But they have hashed that out and resolved their
Well,
issues and admitted it was not just him.
Okay, but it destroyed my view of him.
Talk about holding a grudge.
It is a grudge.
I mean, that was how many years ago?
It messed up my childhood. Yeah,
You were traumatized
I traumatized
at an early age
At an
because
early age.
Aunt Vivian came down different and lighter.
Because think about it, at that time you didn't see a lot of darker skinned lead actresses in sitcoms, right?
true.
You had Cosby Show, you had
Felicia
Claire,
Rashad.
and she's beautiful, right? I love
Gorgeous.
Felicia Rashad. Exactly, I love her. And then you juxtapose that to Will Smith, who had the darker Aunt Viv there. And then you also had Family Matters. But that show also had an issue because remember, we talked about this at brunch one day very quickly before we get into the real topic, how the little girl went upstairs and never came down, and the show never addressed the fact.
Just ghosted the girl right out of the script.
She is like, bye. I mean,
Didn't
just
mention it
gone.
again. Well, do you think that Aunt Viv's replacement had anything to do with her color? Do you think colorism was at work? Or you just didn't appreciate that you didn't have the representation anymore?
At the time, I had no concept of whether or not colorism was the issue. I just knew that it didn't sit well with me, right? It just didn't sit well with me. And I just didn't think she meshed well with the rest of the folks. I didn't like...
The new Vivian.
Yeah,
Viv.
I just didn't like her.
Well,
But I was biased. I admit that.
And she was out there, the original Aunt Viv on social media, she was out there for a long time expressing herself
Yes.
very clearly, where she showed some people maybe she wasn't wrapped too tight. So that's why I don't blame him solely. And they both seem to have buried the hatchet and reconciled and said that they were both at fault.
Well, I don't see them at the red table yet. When I see them at the red table, I'll believe it.
Can I tell you something though? I will say, we talked about the Will Smith thing, and we're not going to do that on this episode because we could talk all day about it. But because of his outrageous behavior, what I view to be his outrageous behavior at the Oscars, I'm less inclined to watch the red table. Like, they started a new season. They have an episode now with Janelle Monáe. And I honestly feel some kind of way about, I just want to stay away from that drama for a minute. That all that energy that family is giving, although Red Table Talk gives positive energy usually, and it's been very good. But I don't know, it's something about, he seemed to have tainted all of this right, at least right now. But for me, I don't want to see either one of their faces right now. I'm not interested in any of their projects for now. I'll circle back. But it surprised me that I felt that way, that I would allow my disgust, right, for his behavior to transfer really to her.
I mean, you did write a 2-page Facebook post on it.
That was all about him. But I will say she's culpable with regard to the state of their relationship to some degree. I won't blame her for his reaction that night per se. A lot of people have done that. I wouldn't necessarily go that far. But what he did was just symptomatic of a bigger problem that exists, I think, because of their relationship.
Yeah.
So.
I'll just say this. I never really watched the Red Table. The only episode I watched was the one when she was supposed to be bringing herself to the table. And I didn't like the episode, so I never went because she really didn't bring herself. She was over here lollygagging, giving us some BS.
She did not come to be open and honest like she requires. Like she said, the Red Table is for.
That's what her guests are supposed to do, right? So I didn't appreciate that. Yeah, I don't see myself watching again. But, it is what it is. They have their avenue. They are out there doing whatever they're supposed to do. So let's pivot to the real topic, okay, which is mature dating. And the reason I call it mature dating is I'm thinking
with old people or mature people?
Well, you're older, okay? You're not 20.
I look 20.
Okay, thank the Lord for the genes that he gave you.
Hashtag black don't crack.
No one is discounting your looks, okay? But, as people mature in age or in profession, right? Or just in their mental state, their expectations of dating change and their expectation of suitors change, right? Sure. But it also seems like maybe the suitors who have been pursuing, because I know you without giving your business out, some of the pursuers may not be at the level that you want them to be for dating purposes. And I'm not talking about financial and all that, just the package, right? So let's just, it's kind of like an open conversation. I don't really have any questions for you necessarily, but Janika,
an interview.
How is dating going for you?
Dating sucks.
Why?
That's the whole podcast. That's the podcast wrapped up in 2 words. Dating sucks. So I am older. I am 51. I will be 52 later this year. And so, as you mentioned,
that girl old. I'm just playing.
So as you age and as you evolve as a person, naturally what you want in a mate evolves, right? You don't want the same thing at 50 that you wanted when you were 20. And thank God for that. Some people get married in their 20s and realize, unfortunately, that that's so young to even know yourself or to be able to pick a partner who can grow with you and still love you the same, and you guys and respect you and understand you, right? Even though you're a different person really in your 50s and 40s than you were in your 20s and 30s. And so that's usually a good thing, but that's why maybe you don't want to get married so young. So I will say I was always focus more on what I was doing with my life, how I was going to develop into what I wanted to be professionally. But that's not to say it took precedent necessarily over, my dating. But I had, my focus was broader than just being a Mrs. Let me put it that way, right? Because a lot of people, not so much now, of course, but certainly when I was younger and as we were coming along, the focus was still find somebody when you're in college or, immediately thereafter to maybe settle, quote unquote, settle down with. But I wasn't interested in doing that at an early age. Went to college, went to law school, wanted to really focus on my career and where I was going there. So I was dating and was open to seeing, whatever developed. But marriage wasn't at the top of my list, and everything I did wasn't focused towards getting married. And I know for some women, it was.
Okay, let me ask this.
Yeah.
Sorry, because you're doing a soliloquy right now.
You asked.
Now,
are we supposed to be talking?
But I want to stay on that for a moment. When you said marriage wasn't on your forefront at a young age, now, is marriage something that you want to do, or is it more about just meeting someone who you can grow with?
So it becomes more complicated the older you get, right? Because I think there's a middle ground. Once you bypass, okay, I've established myself in my career or whatever else you want to develop before you actually get married. And then the focus becomes, all right, it's time, I'm ready. Where is he? I'm at a certain age. I need to start having kids. Unfortunately, women have a biological clock that dictates, their window. So that seems to take primary focus.
Where's your clock at?
At some point. I already told you how old I was. Look it up. Do the research. It ain't hard.
No,
so there's a period of time where marriage does become the priority. Now that I'm getting older and for all intents and purposes have passed my window for birthing children, it causes you, I think, to refocus and go, do I want to get married at this point, or is it more about just finding a soulmate, right? Who I connect with, who understands me, who respects me, where we share the same interests, can grow together. And that becomes the point where you are like, well, are they established? Are they, what are they like at the age they are, right? And that may vary because I skew younger, so you don't have to be 50 or older for me. But you are more focused on...
At least 21 though, right?
I'm not trying to get arrested out here.
Well, you technically... Or
be a sugar mama. So, okay. So, but I do still want to be married. I do still want to have that type of relationship.
So let me tell you very quickly a little small story from yesterday. Still on this topic. So I was out eating with my friend. We were at this Irish pub. So we having drinks, eating. And so the waitress comes and it turned into a counseling session with the waitress.
With the waitress?
Yeah. Okay. So she is 6-7 months pregnant. She recently moved in with her fiance, and something on her face just told me she isn't happy, right? Something is. So I just asked her, I was like, oh, so y'all get married? And I said, but how do you feel about that? And she was like, I don't know. And I said, wait, you said yes to this person and you don't know. Tell me why you don't know. And she was like, well, he's not affectionate. Like I'm the type of person I need to feel like the person loves me with actions. And I'm paraphrasing, right? Mm-hmm. And that, if I go home and I hug him, he's the type of person to be like, what, you out here cheating? Like, that's a sign that something is going on. And I said to her, when you go home, I'm going to give you a scenario. When you go home and you look at your fiance, how does it make you feel when you see him coming from a long day? And she was, and I was like, boo,
bad reaction.
Boo. I said, y'all need to, before you go down this line, y'all need to figure that out. I'm not saying he's not the one for you, but you said yes, and you need to know why you said yes. And if you're still struggling and y'all are just engaged at this point,
That's a sign.
and you have a child coming on, that is a sign that this might not be the best decision at this point. Or, the other thing is y'all need to have a conversation about what it is that you all want from this marriage. If the concept of marriage isn't between the two of you equal or at least similar, you're going to always have a problem,
Lifetime of misery.
right? And you're going to feel, and I said to her, you're going to feel regret every day. And that regret every day is going to translate to what happens with your relationship of raising your child.
Right.
And that is going to be the most important piece, right?
Right.
But it was just random, which is, again, not to go back to this podcast.
And you out there like you Oprah.
Hello.
Randomly.
Y'all the
Got a
best that.
degree. Right. Fix our life.
But it was a great conversation, which goes back to the whole point of me starting this podcast, was the concept of you going into a bar or a restaurant or whatever, drinks and communication. It just brings people together, right? People who I don't think I would have had this normal conversation with her. Like, she wouldn't be my friend on a regular day, but it was a concept of us being in that environment where she felt comfortable enough to have this conversation with a stranger, and I felt comfortable enough to have that conversation.
For such a time.
Yes. All right.
Well, it sounded like she didn't think he loved her the way she needed to be loved, and then it sounded like maybe she didn't love him enough. They need couples counseling.
Yeah. All right. Now back to the dating. Now, so you in this, I'm going to say this circular conversation with yourself about whether marriage is the goal or soulmate. Now, can you?
Well, it's not an either or.
No. I know that. I'm just breaking it down for my purposes.
Okay.
Because you did say it's complicated because it's whether or not do I just need a soulmate, or is this about marriage? But ultimately, you do want to be married.
Right.
It's the end
because
result.
Marriage becomes less of a
burden.
Well, I was going to say priority, but really it becomes less of the holy grail, right? Because when you're a certain age, marriage is the holy grail for a lot of women. I don't care how archaic and sexist, anti-feminist that might sound. That is the goal of a lot of women when they're in a particular age range. And as you get older and you build your life for yourself, you realize it's not the focus just to get married and have somebody else in my life, but they've got to contribute and complement. And this, same is true in the reverse. And so marriage doesn't become the holy grail because, one, you learn that you will survive without being a married woman at a certain age.
Come on. Okay. Speak it, sister.
I will survive. hey. But yeah. So because in your late 20s, your 30s, your late 30s, you think, OMG, who am I going to be if I'm not married? How can I achieve? How can I obtain, right? If I don't have X, Y, and Z. Well, when you're not married by those ages, you keep it moving and you realize I can do it for myself. And so marriage doesn't become this thing you put on a pedestal, right? And this achievement, as much as it becomes fulfillment for you as an individual with respect to now you have built your life. Who do you want to share it with?
Now, you used two words. You said that they have to, and vice versa, that the people need to contribute to and complement. What does contribute mean? So when you're dating, how do you assess whether or not this person is contributing to whatever you think you need and complementing whatever you think you need?
So contributing to is about, I think, mainly...
Don't be talking about no finances.
I hate this phrase, what do you bring to the table? I really don't like it. But the concept rings true and is fundamental, I think, in any relationship. In the simplest terms, you think, I have my career and I've been able to buy my own house and I do what I want and I travel and I blah, blah, blah. And so if I'm interested in connecting with someone, then you can't be living with your mama on the struggle bus, blah, blah, blah. And so we need to be sort of on the same level. And I know people have plenty of things to say about that. I don't care. What about you can't discount the brother that's trying to make it and the blah, blah, blah. Because especially for you as a black woman and black men and what they're subjected to, it's only a small fraction of black men that are going to be on your level, whatever. God will provide. Okay?
But, okay, wait. But what if the guy is the person is conscientiously deciding to live with his mama because he's saving because he's doing a business or he wants to travel.
And that's great for him. I'm not discounting or looking down on the person for what they want, but particularly
I had to fill this up because this conversation, bro.
Particularly as you grow older, there comes a point where as a man, you are either at a certain stage in your life that is acceptable to me or you are not. And for that brother if you have to live with your mother to save up and travel and all of this, then you're not the one for me. I need a man who is independent enough to where he has his own. He's not still living with mama.
Does he have to own or can he rent? Are you thinking about that at all?
I mean, ideally he would own. Why is he renting? But here's what I have to say about people that would say that was classist, right? That my attitude is just classist and it's built on materialism and all this. No, what I have found, because again, I have dated for decades, so I've experienced almost everything.
So you're a serial dater.
Yeah, in this arena. And what I have found is, because it's not that I haven't tried to date men who haven't achieved the same things that I have at a certain stage. I've tried to date them. And what I have realized is that you can just be too far apart in your interests, in your approach to things, in your thought processes, and just how you handle life. So it's not just that the brother's not making, 6 figures. It's not just that he doesn't have his own house. It's when he's in a certain arena, socially, professionally, economically, it's hard. If there's a lot of disparity concerning those factors, then to me it's hard to connect personally, where this seems like this would be a good union that is contributing to my life and complementing my life. So that's the part of the contribution, but it's more than just financial. That's only one aspect of it, right? Contribution is also about, how are you treating me? How are you respecting me? How are you handling me, with respect to what you have going on in your life, and just really what you're showing me. Right?
Okay. So can I push back a little bit? Not because I think what you're saying is not accurate. What I want to know is, in the inverse of that, then, what is it that you're doing to complement and contribute to that person? I mean, when you're dating, are you only looking at it from what I'm getting from it, or are you also looking at it from, okay, maybe this person doesn't have X, Y, and Z, but he has this, and I have X, Y, and Z. Because the concept of compliment is not that they match, right? It's that they enhance each other, or
they balance.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you think about that when you're dating? And how soon do you start thinking about that? I mean, it can't be the first date, or is it?
Not necessarily. This is what I was saying. So to answer your first question, for a while, I didn't consider what am I bringing, because I always assumed I'm bringing it, right? And it's all about, what are you contributing? But because I knew I was bringing it.
Susie next door is bringing it too, boo. I mean.
Indeed, and that's part of the problem, okay? So, but there did come a point a few years ago where I had an epiphany in meditation, because meditation is very beneficial. I recommend that for everybody.
That's why you should, if you need to use my meditation room upstairs.
Oh my God. He just wanted to plug the fact that he has a meditation room in his new house. Okay. So you got that in. You good?
I'm good. Thank you. Because I got rooms to spare. No, let me stop playing. Go ahead.
Rooms on rooms. So I was in meditation, and it did occur to me, okay, you've been praying and asking and expecting, and you have this list and you want all of this from a man. Have you thought about how you can, what are you bringing to really, how would you do it, right? Because I'm always looking at like, I got plenty to bring and I'm enough and da 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 da. But the question is, well, how are you utilizing that to contribute to the man you want in your life? How would you sort of manifest?
You know, I hate that word.
What?
Utilize. I hate when people use sentences, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I can't understand.
And I also hate,
Problem with words.
I also hate when people write it in briefs, but go ahead.
Sound like a personal problem to me. but so I have since that time focused also on, okay, what are you doing? What are you bringing? What are you offering? Right. So it's more balanced, I think, for me in that regard.
Were there moments where you thought, oh, maybe I'm not the package, or maybe what I thought I was bringing, I'm not bringing?
Honestly, there does come a point where you go, well, what is wrong with me that I haven't been able to to find anyone or to have what so many other people have. It's when you're single, it seems like people are getting married left and right. But I do know that I refuse to get married just to be married. I can't be with someone who I'm not don't feel a true connection with. I'll love him later. I hear a lot of, well, I loved him when we got married. I wasn't in love with him and I learned to love him. That's fine if that works for you. Oftentimes it seems that grows into resentment the older people get because there wasn't that foundational connection. So when somebody else continues to grow in one direction and you're growing in another, there was no real common foundation that you would come back to regardless of what made sense. Because, usually when you have that connection and that foundation, it's something that exists that you can't explain. And so those marriages either exist as really dead marriages to me, or they end up getting divorced. But whatever works for you. But so I did start thinking about that. But then you have the issue with men who, at any age, have a problem with commitment. So even when you think you've connected and you think it's all there, something is going on where it just doesn't line up.
Yeah, but
because I have been engaged, but he wasn't ready. He wasn't really ready. He should have never proposed. He wasn't really ready to get married. So
maybe you shouldn't accept it. Let's start with that.
I thought he was ready.
Let's start with that.
I thought he was ready. I had no reason to decline.
You ain't do your due diligence. You ain't do your research.
I did.
All right. Now, okay. So I know, like, for me, because I've been single so long, that I find that I am very cynical to trying to date. And I also know that I have no tolerance for things that I might have tolerated before. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like sometimes I shoot myself in the foot because people naturally, I do think people naturally are not going to connect instantaneously, right? I subscribe to the...
No, have you dismissed that outright?
No, but I subscribe to the perspective of this. I think any relationship requires work. And when I say any relationship, I'm not talking about just intimate relationships. I think friendships require work. I think professional relationships require work. And I think intimate relationships require work. That requires work individually, but it also requires work as the two individuals involved, because to me, it's a business transaction. I'm looking at it from that perspective, because it requires both of us to have some kind of perspective or idea of what we want out of this, right? Now, oftentimes I think people tend to try to have those conversations too soon. Sometimes, like, you go on a date and they're like, well, what are you looking for? What do you want? And I'm like,
can we just get to know
hello?
each other? Like,
I mean,
well, you don't even know my last name.
Can I order appetizer first? I mean, let me see if at the end of this you're gonna try to reach into your pocket to see if you're gonna pay. You know what I mean? Like, let's get through the
right.
Let's get through the small hurdles first. Yeah, you want to have this old deep conversation. I don't know what the fuck I want, right? But I do think people get the problem with that approach. What I find too is that when people are ready to have that conversation, it's bringing a level of uncomfortableness, right? Because I don't think a lot of folks are used to dating and dating with the concept of getting to know each other, right? But then understanding when that break comes or that line comes where you need to have the conversation. Because it's all inevitably, I think it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation because you don't know if the person is ready. You don't even know if you're ready, right? And you don't know if you're ready to hear that this person isn't ready to move to the next step that you're ready to go, right? So there's so many things going on. Right. And for men, I think, naturally, I know this might seem like a cop-out, but the discussion of emotions is not something that you want to indulge in. And I don't think we have the tools sometimes to indulge in, which goes to the point of some folks who say, oh, to your earlier point, I loved them at this point, or I did love them, or I grew to love them, right? I do think there is merit to that, right? Because that if you put in the work, you can grow to love someone. Because I feel like you can. But can you grow to be in love? Well, I don't know the answer to that. Now, No, is what I say. To me, being in love is something that exists without you trying. Love, certainly. That shit don't exist. I'm sorry, what? Real love doesn't exist? That does not exist. What are you saying? That I think that's a fantasy. You don't believe in love. I don't think it exists. I think it's bullshit. I do. I think it's bullshit. I think people get invested in the concept of love so much that they think they're in love, but the whole I'm in love bullshit, I don't think it's accurate. Because inevitably it's a selfish feeling. It is. Explain that. I don't understand that. Because okay, if I say I'm in love with someone, that's because I have thought in my head or my feelings or my heart sputters or whatever, or is it flutters, whatever. Flutters, yeah. Whatever. Right, around them. I get these feelings, right? That's all me. But the question becomes... It could be mutual, though. Yeah, but how many people actually have the conversation? Like, you don't have those natural conversations. Yes, they do. You've had that conversation? Yeah. Give me an example of you have verbatim. Give me an example. People have conversations about you make me feel X. You contribute to my life in this way. I can't imagine my life without you. I come into a room and I'm only concerned about how you are doing. I think about you all day when we're not together, blah, 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 blah. I mean, to me, that just sounds like I'm just trying to get to the next level if I ain't already got there. What if you already got there and they're still saying it? Well, it might be good. So we're not going to subscribe to your anti-love philosophy, to your Grinch philosophy on love. I honestly don't think it exists. I think it is a concept of working towards something, and you develop feelings based upon your interaction with the person. I've never been in a situation ever. I don't disagree with that. With my life, by interacting with people, but that's not the way you're subscribed. The way that I feel like you're describing it is like this whole like flowers flowing from the sky, and men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I mean, it just sounds like some bullshit. But go ahead. Not bullshit. It sounds like some pure bullshit. But that's how that's the distinction I make between love and being in love. Like, you can love someone for what they do for you, and you can appreciate them in a way that translates into love. But to be in love with somebody is distinct from just loving them, because you can appreciate what somebody does for you and still not be crazy about them, want to put their needs above your own, want to make sure that they're happy regardless of you want to do what you can to enhance their life. To me, that's in love. Like, you can't live without them. You just want to be with them. But you're not with them. And something about their very presence. But they ain't here. Like, calms you, soothes your soul. Where are they? That's my thing. Who can you soothe my soul? Like, you can do things for me, but that won't do anything. You can go to a masseuse to soothe your soul. Where you going for your massage and your happy ending? I mean, this sounds like some straight up bullshit. All right. So, so I do not subscribe to the concept of like love at first sight. I don't believe in it. I think it's non-existent. I, you know, I've seen so many people like, black folks, we always go back to the Bible, those of us who grew up in the church, right? And the Lord is going to show you who you going to marry. Now, I've seen many instances where the Lord showed someone who they're supposed to be with. I mean,
was it the Lord?
According to them, okay, they got married and they were divorced thereafter. Okay.
Well, because in the church, you had a lot of people too who were signing up to this celibacy con. I call it a con, and they were rushing to get to the altar just so they could have sex and end up in divorce. I'm like, how is that better? Is that better? Divorce is supposed to be a sin too. How is that better than just having sex before marriage and figuring out what you want, what you like, and who you want? Like,
yeah, I can't. Well, ladies, let me do a disclaimer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not an opinion or subscribing to the concept of you need to have sex before you get married in order to understand.
I didn't say you need.
I'm just saying. Okay, so if you are celibate out there, I'm looking at you right now. Those of you who are looking at me, those of you who are listening to my soothing voice. God. Okay, if you subscribe to celibacy, continue to do you, boo, because it's going to make you better. It's all about you.
If you want to be celibate, but don't make life decisions based on your burning desire to have sex.
No,
because that ends up being a problem.
Okay, but going to, since you used the sex word,
I'm sorry, is this a G-rated podcast? Why you spell? Why did you spell?
Okay, so
sex.
Do you think sex complicates the concept of feeling in love?
Oh, of course. I mean, there's scientific data that talks about how
what research you did.
There is, hey, reading is fundamental, okay? There is a chemical that is released in your brain, like dopamine, the same stuff that gets people.
The libido?
No. The same stuff that gets people hooked on like Oxycontin and other drugs is dopamine, the release of dopamine in your brain from taking that drug. When you have sex, that chemical is released in your brain. And so it alters your brain chemistry and therefore your thoughts and views towards this particular person. So going back to the biblical ties, to the spiritual sort of conversation about this, what I do accept as part of I accept a lot of the Christian teaching. I'm a Christian. I don't want anybody to think I'm a devil worshiper because I don't.
And if you let me do a disclaimer. For those of you who subscribe to another form of religion, it's perfectly fine. Those who do not subscribe to any religion at all, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If you are a devil worshiper, it's perfectly fine. Just don't come to my house.
Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, I'm just saying. So I do believe in the philosophy that there is a soul tie, the spiritual theory, that there is a soul tie created between you and another person when you have sex, because it's ethereal. It's something I think you can't.
It's what? I'm sorry.
Ethereal.
The word
is ethereal.
Not a speller. I was great on the spelling bee. You want to explain to the people what that means?
Webster's. Look it up.
No. You over here trying to bring out your dictionary.
I can't help that I have an expanded vocabulary.
Yeah, that expands.
So it's intangible. There is a connection. There is a feeling. There is a I don't know another word for it, but I do think there exists then palpable energy.
Let me ask this: now that you're 51, going on 52.
Oh, you got to re-emphasize that.
No, because you should. First of all,
we don't have to talk about that again.
No, let me tell you. Okay, my favorite singer, Miss Patti LaBelle. Everyone knows I love her.
I love Patti.
Okay, she comes out and
and still look good.
Hello, and she says with pride her age all the time, because age doesn't matter. I don't care. I mean, it scares people away, right? But to me, age doesn't matter. Okay, now, but the point of me bringing that up is, do you? Given your lifespan, I'm assuming you have sex with more than one partner. You don't got to give us your number, okay?
And won't.
Exactly. Okay. But I'm assuming you've had sex with more than one person in your lifetime. as you get older, this ethereal concept that you just subscribe to, do you feel that it's stronger as you get older, or you are able to separate it more?
It's not stronger per se. I mean, that depends on the chemistry, right, between the two people. So it's not stronger. It's the same to me, because you still have created a connection that then makes the relationship more complicated, right? Especially if I do believe in the idea that you can't have sex too soon, because I think sometimes it makes you ignore things.
How do you feel about casual hookups? Do you think it's appropriate at your age, as not your age, older, mature dating? Do you think it's something that is?
It depends on what you want as an individual, right? So I think regardless of the age.
I'm trying to get into our business, people, without getting into our business, but go ahead.
We're not getting into my personal experiences. But what I will say is it still is about what you want as an individual. So you can be my age, or you could be older, or you could be younger. And if that's what you want at that time, then that's fine for you, I think. If you want more and you're settling for a hookup because the person you're interacting with won't give you more, then you have to reassess, is this really serving you, right? Is it beneficial to you? What you're getting out of it, is that really what you want, or have you convinced yourself that that's what you want? So that's the difference. But for a lot of people, no matter the age, and especially when you get older, sometimes that's all you want, because you find fulfillment elsewhere. Like, I have a girlfriend who who really believes fulfillment comes from what you're doing in other parts of your life, and that whomever you are dealing with only fulfills certain roles, and that's enough.
I mean, to me, to me, that makes sense, right? I mean, I just feel like sometimes people get so bogged down with the concept of being in a relationship that they don't know how to be in a relationship. I know that sounds stupid, but it's like you're so focused on the concept that I'm in a relationship, but you're not working towards truly developing.
That goes back to your point.
Relationship.
You have to put in work, because I think it sounds like, based on what I've heard from married people, that's what happens often in marriage. Like, so many people aspire to be married, to be married, to be married. They get married and then think they've crossed the finish line and they don't have to do anything else. When in actuality, the wedding is the beginning of the marriage, and you have to continue to put in the work, because you still need to be an individual. You still need to be interesting enough to your partner. You know, you guys have to do certain things to maintain a connection, because life, especially now at this time, I think pulls us in so many different directions. There's so many responsibilities we have that our parents didn't even have as adults. First of all, because most of them were married. And of course, it's usually easier to do things with two people than one. And so I think particularly
two incomes is better than one.
Better than one.
I don't care what you make.
Amen. And so adulting for those of us in a certain age range, it's just exhausting, right? So it doesn't relieve you of the responsibility to do the work, because people can be so exhausted by other things, and they feel like they can push their marriage or relationship to the bottom of the list because that person is already here. And especially if you're married, you're like, where they going?
Yeah.
And they already said I do, so they want to be here. But you have to make that choice. You're making a choice every day to be with that person. So you need to make an effort in some way, shape, form, or fashion to keep it together.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think my thing is, I mean, I do kind of have these weird views of love and all of that, but I think that people get into relationships, get into committed relationships, get into marriages, and you said this, and after they get into it, everything else is stagnant relating to that relationship, right? And I feel like people spend more time, energy, effort on making other people view their relationship as something other than it is, and not focusing on making sure that this is what my partner views this relationship is, right? And then we spend more time because, I work a lot, right? You work a lot. General people, when you have a job, you work a lot. I think you spend more time giving to organizations that you work for, or if you're your own business, you give more time to the businesses than you give to your children. You give to your significant other. You give it to your boo thing over here who you're trying to make into a relationship or a marriage, right? And if
Trying to turn a hoe into a housewife.
no, not necessarily. But I just feel like if people think to transfer 10% of the energy that they direct to these other things into the relationship, I feel like the relationships can grow a little more, right? And I also feel like people don't realize that dating should never end, right? It shouldn't end because you're married.
Right.
It shouldn't end because you're in a committed relationship. It shouldn't end because this, that, and the third. It should be something that's continuously because people change.
You shouldn't take it for granted.
Exactly. And if you don't recognize that people change, you are going to be resentful. You're going to start thinking about, oh, this person don't love me. No, it's not that the person don't love you. What the fuck are you doing to love the relationship? Because it requires work. You know what I mean? It requires you to put in that energy, that effort, and that time.
Right.
And I just feel like people just forget about that concept of it.
Because you have to be giving. You have to be interesting. You have to be, still to your partner. Like, who wants to sit around and be bored and do nothing and have somebody who's just walking around? There's so many people living like roommates today who are married. That is heartbreaking. And, so that's one, I guess.
I mean, it ain't heartbreaking to me. I mean, if you paying part of this mortgage, I'm good.
Right. Well, it's one silver lining, I would say, with respect to, okay, it's taken me a while. I'm still not married, but when I do get married, I'll be in the best position, I think, of my life to know what I want and to know what I need to do. Right. So, but I want to get back to why you don't believe in this theory of being in love, the head over heels in love.
I don't think it exists.
So you think. So what does that mean for you and what you want in a relationship, that you just hope to have somebody who you can grow to love?
I want to be in a relationship where every day I feel like we still enjoy each other, right? But when there are differences, when there are fights, because inevitably that's going to be, right? That we care enough about the end result that working towards fixing whatever that shit is that caused us to get there, that we spend energy, effort, genuine energy, effort, and fixing it, right? Because I feel like a lot of times, a lot of these relationships are like, I'm going back to, back in the day in Detroit, when we would get bicycles and we would blow the tires and we just use patches, right? That shit only gonna last for so long. Right? We patch up things to move on and we don't fix them.
But don't you think that the thing that motivates you to want to patch it up is this connection you have with the person? Not just that they love me and this relationship works. I like them enough to call it love. But to me, there's what's the word? Just an intangible factor that then motivates you to want to be better, to do more, to do the work, to contribute to the relationship, to be with this person.
Maybe, but I don't know. I just don't think it's because I'm in love with that person. I think I love the person and I love what we're working for enough to know that this is worth the fight to move forward.
And for you, that means just loving them. You don't attach the theory of it being you being in love to them.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Because, I mean, think about it. There's so many people. How many divorces you've seen and they put out statements? We love each other. We're in love with each other. We just grew apart.
Well, I would disagree.
Respect our privacy.
I would disagree and say they aren't saying they're in love. They say we love each other, we love our kids. And to me, that's the difference, is that they aren't in love anymore, so they don't have that.
Yeah, but the concept of being in love cannot sustain a relationship. I don't care.
In and of itself, you are absolutely right. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist and it's not distinct from just loving someone. I know this conscious uncoupling and all this stuff. And then when Megan and Devon put out their statement about, I don't know, loving
Who's
each
Devon?
other differently. Her ex.
Who? Megan Fox?
Devon Franklin? Yes.
The preacher?
Where have you been? Yes.
Wait, but that's not Megan Fox. That's Megan
Good. Megan Fox
She
is married,
gorgeous.
white, and
Oh
married
my
to
God.
Oh, do you want? You know, she's single now. If you want to reach out,
I probably don't. I probably can't contribute the way she is used to contribution. But I ain't got enough money.
yeah.
But go ahead.
I think when people get divorced, I mean, you can still love that person, but you're not in love with them anymore. And it means something different for everybody, right? It's not a standard definition.
Maybe what I think the concept of being in love is very early on. I do not think it sustains throughout the relationship. I think that intangible feeling of feeling in love is something that motivates you to want to work, right? Or wants to be with a person. I think that stops at the point that you are in a relationship, because at this point you are getting to know a person in a different capacity.
So
because if I present myself a certain way initially and you fall in love with the way I presented myself, when we move in together, that presentation of who I was may not be the person that you wake up next to every day.
But here's my perspective. If I'm in love with you, then it's okay because I'm in love with you. So I accept all of you, the good and the bad. If I just love you for me, then certain things you do might work my nerve. And again, I might love you for all the things, right, that you're otherwise doing and, you know, all of that. But if I'm not in love with you, then maybe I don't, for me, I have a problem accepting certain things about you. But it sounds like you equate being in love to the passion or the intensity that may exist at the beginning of a relationship because it's new and you're getting to know someone. Yeah, I absolutely agree. That can't be sustained. But that's not being in love for me. But I hear you. That's how
I
you
get it.
describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just the way.
So if I may answer your original question, what were you about to say?
Nothing.
But your original question was, or the topic is about mature dating and how is it the older you get. So the apps, I can't do them.
Like Tinder and all that.
Tinder and Bumble and all of them, Match and eHarmony. I've tried them all. I've been on them all. And my particular...
Go to wannabeahoe.com.
I can do that for free. Okay, so I got a fundamental problem with paying to find someone to date. But I've gotten past that, right? Because I've been on these apps and I've paid the money. I find it incredibly
I ain't paying. Oh, I ain't paying. I'll put an ad on Craigslist. Ooh.
Well, Match and eHarmony, they charge you.
Successful African-American male. Available. Meet me at the coffee shop. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, it's exhausting. To me, it's almost, you have to put as much energy into it as you do like your regular job. Because
But you should want to do that.
who has time?
Oh, wait. You talk about for the apps.
For the apps.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
has
That's a
time
lot
to
of
do
work.
that every day.
No, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And my cousin who is younger is on the apps. She's on all the apps, okay, getting a lot of dates. Nothing has come to fruition. But when I said to her, I'm like, well, what is the deal here? Because when I sign up for an app, I cannot check it every single night or respond to every person who's reached out and all of this.
You mean the three people that sent you messages?
Really?
But go ahead.
I get likes and DMs, okay? So,
Oh my God.
so I try to wait until I have like a lighter evening or really wait till the weekend to really dedicate the time then and say, okay, who do I want to respond to and search and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, you've lost. already.
Yeah, because
She
I don't
said,
know what you
I said,
doing.
because by the time I reach out, they either don't respond or this, that, and the third. She's like, oh, in this day and age, you have to respond within 24 hours. And if you don't, they don't think you're interested or, whatever. So they move on to the next person. I'm not interested in giving the app that type of energy. And so I have really given up the ghost on that and said it's going to have to happen organically because it exhausts me. It's disappointing.
What's organically? Like
Like-
at a shop or somebody come up
like
there?
just randomly.
Yeah, but you've had experiences, not to put your business out there, but you have organic experiences and you always got something to say.
Right. So what's the difference then? I'm not going to pay for that same experience. So I'll have to run into him somewhere, or friends will have to introduce us or something. But I can't. I'm not interested.
No, it takes time, effort, and energy. Dating is exhausting, period. It's exhausting. You have to be in the mindset to date, want to date, and be willing to accept what comes with dating. That's the shenanigans. That's the bullshit.
Right.
That's the good. I mean, the other thing, though, I think what we haven't talked about, I know we've been going a moment, but it is what it is. It's a good conversation in my mind. Is sometimes, though, I feel like we have a perception of what we want so much that we judge every person before us based upon that perception. And we don't give a person the chance and opportunity to become someone that we can interact with, right? Or like you use this word a lot, like this person was corny, or or like the conversation is boring.
Now, that's my main thing. You can't be boring. You can't be boring and leave it up to me.
But you are dominant.
To be interesting. Well, what happened? I have a strong personality. I would put it that way. But I do have an opinion.
Oh, yeah, because she still dates. She don't want nobody to know that she's dominant. But
I do have an
fellas,
opinion.
gay. I know the girl, gay.
Okay, so I do have an opinion about most things, right? We're in a profession where it requires us. I mean, we were drawn to the profession because we have a particular gift, right? Oratory gifts, critical thinking, analytical skills, and we don't shy away from voicing that opinion. So you've got to be somebody who is okay with that, which is great. But you also can't be the guy where I'm your entertainment. I'm what makes your life interesting, because otherwise you're boring. You have nothing to say. You have no interest. There's nothing. The only thing you like to do is what I expose you to, because you don't even go out of your house to figure out what there is outside in the world. That is boring to me, and I will be single to the day I die if that's the only thing you have to present.
Well, let me say this. I'll be at your funeral, and I would say,
don't you speak it.
My girl.
Don't do
My
it.
girl.
Don't do it.
My girl said, look, she gonna live her life to the fullest. If y'all can't step up to the plate, there she lies.
I'm not gonna be single till I die. Don't you speak that into the atmosphere.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, to me, right or wrong, if you're boring, I can't. So, but you're right. Everybody has a certain ideal. You do have to be a little flexible and fluid, right? You can't just have a checklist and they have to check everything out there and they have to be a certain way. You learn and you grow, right? So what you expect and want for yourself may not always be what's best for you, or it may come in a package that's different.
Right.
So,
and it could conflict with people who you love.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
When you're dating someone.
Which is why I don't subscribe to. I'm just looking at how long we've been going. Why I don't subscribe to weddings.
What do you mean?
I think weddings are stupid.
Like, you don't think people should have weddings?
No, because I don't feel like the wedding is for the two people in love. I think it's more about everyone else.
Well, it's a lot of times about the bride.
True.
Plenty of show. It's $1 billion industry.
It is. It costs too much.
It definitely costs too much, but it's driven jointly, I would say, as much as by the bride as the family. And I do think people maybe spend too much. So they end up spending more money being more focused on the wedding than the marriage, for sure.
But anyhow, so we've been going for a moment. So I appreciate this conversation about mature dating. Is there anything that you want to say to close it out in regards to mature dating? Any advice that you can give as a not a struggling female, but as a female who has experienced different types of dates and avenues of getting to where you want to be? And
no, really, I have no wisdom. Because you can't predict it, right? If I could predict it, I would have been married by now. If I had a solution, I would not still be single. I'm not single by choice, but I refuse to settle, right? Like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to be married just to be married. So I would advise people, unless this is somebody you feel like you want to be married to for them and not for, at the core who they are as a person, then don't marry them. Like you were telling the waitress, like she obviously was conflicted about how she felt, whether this is what she really wanted. It sounded like, it was a question about whether the two of them really should be together. People make choices about, well, we're having a kid together, we may as well be together. But I think it was Maya Angelou, who told the story about her mother was one to always tell her, like, two miserable people is not what's best for a child. So don't be with someone just because I think Maya Angelou had a baby, right, when she was really young. And I think she had her first child at like 14. So she always talked about how her mother was great at raising older children, like not great at raising her when she was little. Maybe her grandmother had to raise her at one point. But she said her mother had one word of wisdom she had was not to marry somebody just because you have a child. So I would just say, learn to know who you are, because people oftentimes rush into marriage and expect the other person to fulfill their life and fulfill who they are, right, as a person. But you've got to find that independently, and then I think you'll have the best chance of success. But I mean, what do I know? I can't pretend to have, any definitive perspective on this. You just gotta keep it going until you find the one for you.
Well, I appreciate those wise words spoken like a true queen that you are. But no, I appreciate the time, energy, and effort of the conversation. It is always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you taking your time, energy, and effort to come. But, at the end of the day, it's like you like a sister that I never really
wanted. Mutual.
Yeah. So I'm always going to have your back. Always going to hope that you have nothing but the best in life and happiness in all aspects of your life, whether that's personal, that's professionally, financial, and all of that. So I appreciate that. So yeah. So thank you for being a part of the podcast.
You are quite welcome.
All right.
Happy to be here.
All right. So until next time, people, make sure that you continue to drink, listen, and converse. I'm Sean. And
I'm Jay.
And we are out. Peace and love.
Love.